On this week's episode, things turn sour for the entertainment industry. Is it time for Roku to get weird? And is this the end of the McRib? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Vampires, and Vitae, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is part of the Wizards and Wine Emporium, plus also as well everything that we do at popculturecosmos.com. Of course, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where you can see an absolute ton of stuff relating to the world of tabletop RPG games. My gosh, there are hours and hours in the archive for you to just rummage through, watch, and enjoy right there for you at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. And oh, by the way, did I mention that we cover the latest news and trends each and every day right there for you at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, because it's so easy and so efficient for us to go ahead and just put the news right there for you so you can go ahead and check it out. So go ahead, follow or like our page, and you'll get the latest news and trends right there for you in pop culture. Plus, also as well, you can check us out each and every time out wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us today there. Also on Melinda's channels as well. Please don't forget to subscribe there as well so you can get the latest notifications on when each of us go live on the air. And if you could do all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is the mistress in blue, black, or whatever it is color that's behind her. She turned on a new light, so it kind of changed everything on the perspective there. But you know what? She is nonetheless exciting with everything that she brings to you in regards to Vampires and Vitae, and of course, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. She is a voiceover artist extraordinaire. She is a vital part of the Pop Culture Cosmos and everything that we do. Plus, check her out each and every time out at the Demolition Force whenever she stops by. It is my good friend. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, November is here. A lot of good things coming up. Black Friday approaches us. Our holiday gift guide, I already talked to both you and also Josh. I sent you guys a word on I'm expecting, or I'm hoping, I should say, some good stuff that you're going to go ahead and pass along, not only for us as far as what I can go ahead and correlate here on the show, and what you can correlate here on the show as far as good holiday gift guides that you can go ahead and share to our audience, but I also hopefully will be able to translate that on the popculturecosmos.com site as well. But always good things are happening when you are here talking pop culture, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I already have a lot of that list.
Ooh, as I always like to say, the hamsters are running around the habit trail.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a couple of them on the list that are very high on my also Christmas request list. So,
that is the Robbie Ross. You better get it for me, unless you want to continue in the current state of affairs that we have list. Is that correct?
Okay. Can you imagine? Yeah.
Okay. Robbie Ross, you've been duly warned, my friend. All right.
Right.
Happy. It's like happy holidays.
Right. No, that's not even a little bit true, but I've got a couple of things already on my list that I'm like personally very excited about, very curious about, and I'm going to do as much digging on all of these things as I possibly can to make sure that my list is complete and it is not just accurate, but informative and enough to convince you to buy them for someone in your life who may be into doing a little bit of streaming.
There you go. We'll wait and see. I look forward to it. We're going to run those shows in around the first week of December, either late November, first week of December, just after the very busy Black Friday holiday. So probably we're going to be running that in the first week of December. So look for that. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos Holiday Gift Guide. Not just one, but 2 episodes. Because Josh was complaining, say, you know what? We cannot devote just a half an episode like we always do. We got to go ahead and devote an episode. So I say to Josh, why don't we just go ahead and do 2? So
Mhm.
go, Melinda and I, and Josh and I we'll be going ahead and talking about some great stuff for the holiday gift guide coming up here in just a little bit from your friends of the Pop Culture Cosmos. And of course, I could see you and Robbie Ross in the car. You're driving along, and you know what would be great? Not only adding this for the holiday gift guide, Robbie, but honey, great to go ahead and get one of these as an example,
Right?
for you
Yeah.
to go ahead and utilize for quite some.
And just the biggest smile. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
please.
And you
Yeah.
got to give the eye, yes, yes, the eye, do the eye
Mhm.
thing, yes,
Mhm. Mhm.
yes. When my wife does it, I'm a sucker every single time. But we got a lot of great things to talk about on today's program. We got a ton of things going on, not always great, and some good news as well. I want to make sure everybody knows that there's some good news for PlayStation fans, which Melinda is obviously a big fan of, and if you've
Mhm.
been listening to the show. So some good news in regards to Call of Duty, kind of a clarification, especially with the Activision Blizzard thing still going through the government by government as far as getting approval, still yet to be approved by the UK and the US. But there was some good news announced by Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox. So that's coming up here in a bit when it concerns Call of Duty. Also, as well, the bad news is regards to several different entertainment industry companies are in financial turmoil because the latest reports from many of these, as far as earnings calls, were not good. I've actually reported many of them on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page. We'll talk about just some of them coming up, including Warner Brothers Discovery, Lionsgate, the CW, and there's a lot of hard questions that we're going to have to ask ourselves and talk about. That's coming up here in a little bit. We'll also talk about some of the Netflix new releases, including Manifest, the final season. A lot of people are excited for that. And oh my gosh, the irony of it all, Netflix is debuting this weekend, or actually already has debuted, the series called Blockbuster, based off loosely off the final Blockbuster that's still available. So the joke in that, I think, is really just right there for you if you know the history between Netflix and Blockbuster. So we'll talk about both of those shows coming up in a bit. Speaking of streaming, the Roku is something that's gone under the radar for quite some time, but Roku is one of the few entities out there that's actually doing pretty good, and now it's getting into scripted television. And what do they start off with one of their first scripted television projects with? Of course, a somewhat fictional biographical look at Al Yankovic called Weird, the Al Yankovic story. So we're going to talk about Weird, the Al Yankovic story on the show and why you should still catch it because is it satirical of a satire of something he did as far as his satirical songs throughout his entire career? We'll go ahead and talk about the satire on a satire on a satire coming up here in a bit. Plus, also as well, Causeway. Jennifer Lawrence returns to to television on Apple TV Plus. We'll talk about that and her career, where it's at, coming up here in a bit. The PlayStation VR 2. Well, that got announced as far as a release date and the price. We'll talk about if this is something that's a good value. I want to hear from Melinda because the PlayStation fan that she is she a fan of the PSVR 2? That's coming up here in a bit. And also, as well, that we're hearing word as far as a promotional thing for McDonald's that the end is near for the McRib, as far as a final countdown to the final days that the McRib will be on sale. Is this the truth, or are they just putting us on? We'll talk about that on the show as well. But first, my friend, it is Call of Duty's future on PlayStation because this past weekend, with the release of Modern Warfare 2, which has garnered records from the PlayStation Store, the PlayStation was so quick over the weekend to tell you that it has broken records. It has done so tremendously well, beyond all expectations. The PlayStation Store has never done better on a game than the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. They were so quick to put that out there. And of course, not long thereafter, the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, wanted to clarify the position of Call of Duty going forward, saying Call of Duty will always be on a PlayStation. So your thoughts on this? Obviously, you're excited to hear the news as far as Call of Duty now being confirmed as being on PlayStation going forward. I understand it's a lot of money for Xbox, but if they're ever going to be able to get in a position where they're going to be able to make it attractive for everyone to go ahead and lean towards an Xbox or an Xbox Games Pass, which is more important to them, I think that Call of Duty had to be the kicker, and now it looks like that Call of Duty is going to stay on a multi-platform basis.
Well, at least this version of Call of Duty looks like it's going to. Or did he say that like forever and always it'll be on both?
He said the Call of Duty IP will be on a PlayStation platform continuously as long as there's a PlayStation to get. Now that
Gotcha.
Warzone was always going to be something that's multi-platform because that's been multi-platform since it went free to play, since it actually debuted as a free to play entity. But he's talking about Call of Duty, so I have to understand it's a very vague statement. So you could continue to say it just could be Warzone, but I have a feeling, especially seeing the record sales, that I'm going to have to go against what I predicted earlier or was leaning towards earlier, and saying that they are going to go ahead and appear on PlayStation platforms going forward.
Yeah, it could be that Call of Duty goes ahead and gets a bit of a rework and a new title.
So
And
this will be the one for the last 2 years as far as the main entity. As far as there will not be a annualized entry next year.
yeah, so yeah, it'll continuously be on PlayStation because they're not doing that anymore.
Well, no, there
Right?
will be going first. No, there'll be more Call of Duties. There are more Call of Duties in development. Those will be also going, according to Phil Spencer, on PlayStation. It's just that they're going to skip a year, I guess, is what they're saying.
Yeah, I just wouldn't be surprised to see them just change the title of the IP and then they didn't lie. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
that's a big thing because Call of Duty. I mean, that IP is make. I mean, they have Minecraft. Microsoft owns Minecraft, and
Right.
they're it's on every platform. They didn't take
Right.
it off every platform. I think it just makes them too much money when all is said and done. I think it's probably not the best strategic move. In fact, that I'm saying that if I was him, I may sacrifice some front loaded cash in order to get more people to go to Xbox Games Pass down the road when the next or when the first available Call of Duty that they don't have to put on a PlayStation platform. I would have done it as a exclusive entry just so I could try and gauge how much interest in people hopping over to the new platform. I at least would have tried it for a year. I could always go back after a year or put it on a delayed status after a year. I would have just tried it. This way, he's already boxed himself in saying it's going to be on PlayStation forever. That pretty much says, what, Call of Duty is going to be on PlayStation for a continuous amount of time, just like Minecraft is going to continue on PlayStation. But I just would have tried it for at least a year once the contractual obligations to PlayStation was done, just to see if people or how many people would have hopped over to Xbox.
Yeah, that would have been that will be a smart strategy. There's also,
Because you don't think that actually you're not putting it past them, are you?
no, I'm not at all. And I also think that you could be looking at delayed releases, release it on Xbox first, have it live there for a couple of months and then release it to PlayStation. Like I can see, that kind of stuff happening. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's still a possibility. Just
Yeah.
because he said it will be on PlayStation doesn't mean that there will be or there will not be a delay or an exclusive for a period or timed exclusive for a period of time. I just would have tried it once, after because I think they have to do 2 or 3 more Call of Duties on there contractually, regardless. They have to the next 2 or 3 Call of Duties have to go on PlayStation. That's something that they signed before that Microsoft bought Blizzard and Activision.
Blizzard and Activision,
yeah. So that's something that they already agreed to. Like for instance, your Diablo 4, the already contract has been signed to go. Was signed beforehand and agreed upon to go onto PlayStation platforms. So that's something that they have to go ahead and appear multi-platform. Diablo 5, we don't know yet, but that's like that's somewhere down the road. But
it's like a decade away.
Yeah, that's what they said. Same thing they said on the Xbox podcast. So I will say that again, I would have tried it for a year, when the time came where you don't have to go ahead and you were, at least you could have the choice to be exclusive. I would at least tried it because Xbox, I understand that the consoles is not so much as important to them. The Games Pass is, because you can
Yeah.
put it on so many platforms. I just would have tried it once. I would have just said, you know what, let's hold off announcing putting this on PlayStation, this Call of Duty, like 5 years down the road. Let's just avoid saying that right now. Let's see how it goes. If we don't have X amount of people jumping over from PlayStation to Xbox, you know what? Then we'll go ahead and say, all right, we're going to go ahead and put it on PlayStation. And there you go. I just would have tried it once. I just would have
Right.
committed to it once to see if it's something that people will go ahead and, because you've got to do things right now. If Xbox, I understand again that they're not focused on consoles, but the fact is they're still number three. They're still number three compared to PlayStation. PlayStation Plus is struggling right now because their new tier system has not been a winner. They've already lost 2 million subscriptions, is what they recently announced. So they're struggling to get subscriptions and keep subscriptions right now because people are just really unsure about this new tier system that they have on PlayStation Plus. I really think it would have been beneficial for them down the road when they're contractually no longer obligated to PlayStation. Just give it a try once to see what they can do. I mean, Elder Scrolls, they can make that exclusive like they did Starfield. They can make other games Fallout exclusive when the new Fallout comes. That's great and all, but I think Call of Duty would be the real kicker for people to go ahead and switch from from PlayStation to Xbox. But again, that's probably not going to happen. They
Yeah,
just too much money.
I also feel like a lot of like serious gamers, like people who spend a lot of time playing video games, and I just feel like they already have both platforms. I feel like there are people who have Xbox and PlayStation, and just depending on what game they want to play is the system that they play on.
Well, not right now, though. I think right now in this new generation, this next generation, because the systems are like $500, they're the commitments financially that you have to make to both of them. I think there's more division, but as the system gets older, maybe and gets less expensive, at least hopefully, although the PlayStation actually got more expensive in certain areas of the world, I really think that right now you have that division. You have people making a choice between one or the other simply because of the fact that logistics and expense. The previous generation, I mean, I'm looking at my allotment. You're right. I have my Xbox, my PlayStation, and my Nintendo Switch looking at me. But when it
Mhm.
comes to the next generation, like for right now, I'm only going to commit to one and not the other.
Yeah, but you can look at that too, like upgrading your phone, and then a year from now upgrading your other phone. Do you know what I mean? Like you could, depending on which platform you play on the most, upgrade to that new one first, and then a year from now upgrade the other. You know what I mean? Like there are cost effective ways to do it.
But then you got to
Um,
have subscriptions for both, and that's kind of a
yeah,
hassle.
but that kind of stuff can come and go as well. You can go on a 6 month Xbox binge and then come back to PlayStation for a while, and
It's
you
all about the
having
games when it comes down to it.
exactly, and having both just gives you an opportunity to make sure you're not missing anything. So um,
A fair point.
I will miss anything that is Xbox exclusive because I will not buy one. But
See, there you go. See,
yeah, it's not
you've
my
clearly
thing.
said, well, you've clearly
Yeah,
said that there's nothing that anyone could do to put you in an Xbox. As
no.
far as you going ahead and switching over, they could put like Diablo 4, 5, 6, and 7 on there exclusively, and you don't still would not.
Yeah, you know what? I would end up maybe looking at some gameplay online and imagining what it would be like. But, you know, I've also been very happy with Diablo 3 for a number of years, so I expect to be happy with Diablo 4 for a number of years
Oh,
too. So,
what's this I hear? Diablo 3 servers shutting down? Oh, that's no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
excuse me,
I'm
what?
kidding.
I
I'm
gotta
kidding.
go.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can
Right?
see
I'm
like
only
the
halfway through the rifts. I gotta go.
I could see like the one of the Xboxes come by your house and just like grab you, just like try out of seeing something on like Twilight Zone, just try to suck you in. You're like scratching. No, no, you
Right?
can't take me, Xbox. You can't take me.
Right?
Uh, I will just say for me that I think right now, looking at it because of logistics and cost and what you get at value, I am leaning towards Xbox. I'm waiting for Starfield. I'm waiting for a big game to come in before I make that decision wholeheartedly. I mean, I could switch over at any point in time to PlayStation because God of War Ragnarok's coming out in a couple weeks and it's already getting tens on IGN to tell you how
Nice.
much it's already doing well with the critics. So it's obviously the best array of first party games is on PlayStation. There is no doubt about it. Conversation ends right there with you could even say Nintendo, but you cannot say Xbox. Xbox has been very weak when it comes to first party narrative games, first party games consistently compared to PlayStation and even Nintendo. So yeah, it's just
Sure.
something that they have to work on. And until they do, until they have an array of games top end that they're able to go ahead and compete with, it's going to be hard for them to go ahead and climb over PlayStation and Nintendo because it just they've got a better value package set up than Nintendo or PlayStation. The problem is just that the fact is they don't have the top end games that are going to bring people over. And the Call of Duty, I thought was going to be the key for them. If they made it exclusive, I think that would have been the kicker. But now that this is happening, I don't know if they ever will reach a level where they're thought of as a number one gaming entity in the industry.
Yeah, I really do think that the result of a lot of this and a lot of the games is just going to be a delayed release on PlayStation. I really think that that's the most severe that thing that we're going to have to contend with.
What are your thoughts out there on the future of Call of Duty on PlayStation? Were you happy by the remarks said earlier this week by none other than the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's so much more to talk about on today's program. I would like to ask you this, in all fairness, as my good friend. Do you like getting weird?
You know what I do as a hobby, right?
Yes, I know what you do as a hobby. You understood what I was. I'm talking rhetorically here, but
Of course, yeah.
Weird debuts this weekend on Roku. It's one of their first attempts at a scripted television series or movie. In fact, something which a lot of companies have touched on as far as dabbled with, as far as doing live scripted television or live scripted movies, and a lot of them have bailed out upon it. But Roku is the latest entity to go ahead and start into it. And what do? They start off with Weird, the Al Yankovic story, starring none other than Daniel Radcliffe. If you get a chance, my good friend Mr. Brett Allen had a chance to speak to Daniel Radcliffe. So go ahead and give him a shout out on the Brett Allen Show on YouTube. Go ahead and you can check out his latest interview there. But I know that Daniel Radcliffe is making the rounds, but with Weird Al, he's the all-time greatest at doing satirical music. He's created basically a market in and of himself that no one has been able to come close to. And that's the thing, when he stops making music, I wonder where that type of genre is going to go to, because the fact that there is no one else that has been able to do it with any success at the level that he has. And this movie itself is actually, with his sense of humor, is fitting right in because it's a tongue-in-cheek satire of him and the way he rose up to fame. And most of it is probably exaggerated or not even true, but especially going over to Madonna's house and doing some stuff with her as far as
Right, right. Uh-huh,
yeah,
uh-huh,
yeah,
uh-huh.
exactly.
In
So
terms of getting weird, yeah.
yes, and they got very weird. But
Yep.
be that as it may, it is Weird Al, so you knew it was going to go ahead and be off the rails. I am still one of the few who saw UHF back in the day, and I loved it, and I thought it was funny. I thought it was entertaining, but I'm only like 5 people that actually saw it back in the day. But your thoughts on this? I think more than 5 people are going to check this out. It's getting actually very good reviews. And I think if you have Roku or you're thinking about getting a Roku either this weekend or by the time Black Friday rolls around, I think you should go out of your way to check out Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Yeah, I think it's very solid advice. And I mean, Ellen herself has given away more than enough Roku TVs for more than 5 people to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the built-in
So,
or you bought the stick, yeah, my
yeah,
gosh, it's very easy. Okay, so I'm going
absolutely.
to ask you a serious question. That's not
Oh,
so
oh,
weird.
okay.
What is your favorite Weird Yankovic song? And don't tell me you don't have one, because
Ooh.
you've been on radio for a number of years. So don't
Yeah,
tell me.
20 years. My goodness. Amish Paradise is right up there.
Rest in peace,
because
Coolio.
yeah, because I loved Gangster's Paradise and yeah, that was great. Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yes,
And
there is.
I'm only seeing like flashes of videos right now. So funny how your brain works sometimes. But
Mhm.
yeah, the Amish Paradise is definitely right up there among my favorite from Weird Al.
Because his style, the way he makes these songs were so visual, and that he could correlate them onto a video platform. He was a king of MTV with his Eat It videos and other videos that he was doing as far as similar in vein. I mean, so many of them, like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" or "Smells Like," what is it? The one he does with like Nirvana, the Nirvana
Yep.
song yeah, that was played tremendously on MTV. And then you had, like I said, later on
God.
when YouTube came out, he's been a hit on YouTube ever since. Mine is Word Crimes, I will tell you that, from the last decade. And actually, his only number one album. In fact, he's the first comedy artist as far as in his, from a comedy music standpoint, him getting a number one on the top of the Billboard charts was something that was never thought to be believed. And it's still something that even he says he smiles about to this day when it's mentioned to him or he thinks about it, because he never even thought he would get that far as successful is concerned.
Yeah, I think it's just a credit to his musicianship and just like he really carved out his own niche position in popular culture. And I know there have been times when people have listened to songs and been like, man, Weird Al is gonna have a blast with this one.
Yeah.
Um and I think the number it's like 150 parodies that he's done.
It Smells
Yeah.
Like Nirvana, by the way, is the
Oh,
title of his
there you go.
Nirvana cover. I remember seeing that video, absolutely loving that video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I did cheat a little bit. I did Google, but we've got Like a Surgeon,
Mhm.
White and Nerdy. Forgot all about that one. Another one, Rides the
That was
Bus.
Was that the Devo cover that he did?
Which one is that?
No, Dare to Be Stupid was the Dare. It was the
Uh,
Devo cover. Yes. Okay.
yep. Perform This Way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Word Crimes is still my favorite, though, and again, that's from the number one album that he had, and just the tremendous success that he's had over the year. I mean, look
Yeah.
at you! You're combing over his entire discography, and you're
Right?
like, man, I remember that one. I remember that
Right?
one, Gerald. I remember that one, because there's so
Yeah.
many. There's so many that he's created. I know he's great in concert. I understand that he's still very successful even to this day when he goes around from theater to theater across the country. Yeah,
Hmm.
just a tremendous amount of success. And of course, with Daniel Radcliffe playing,
Right.
which is funny in and of itself, that
Yeah.
he's actually playing this role. I love the comments that were made when he was announced that it'll be the most important role he's ever played. Weird Al was saying, forget about the Harry Potter thing, but yeah,
Right.
I will say again, it's just great having him, do be if having him in this position where he's being rewarded for his lifelong work, even if it is the only way he can do it is in satire, as far as making a biography or biopic like this, even though it's very satirical and very untrue, it is still no less Weird Al.
And no less entertaining.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
most important thing, because all the things we've said and done over the years when concerns Weird Al, he has been no less entertaining from early on to where he is recently. All of his great music over the course of many decades now. Cannot believe he's been a part of pop culture now since the '80s, and he's still been just.
Hmm.
He seems like he's not going to continue stopping at any point in time. So, just happy for his success. He's someone that again has been so much a part of the music culture. I think that a lot of artists, like you said, just are begging for him to go ahead and cover one of their songs, because it just shows a sign of respect and a show of appreciation for what they've done. And to have Weird Al cover their songs, I think they just absolutely love it for the most part. I know Coolio didn't at first, and that's been drawn out and already talked about. But I think right now, as far as if you want really to gauge a level of success, have Weird Al cover one of your songs.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That was the bar. And once Weird Al did a cover or a parody of one of your tracks, you legitimately had made it.
Absolutely, indeed.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts out there on weird? Do you think Melinda and I and everybody out there should get weird this weekend on Roku with Weird the Al Yankovic story? I wouldn't mind getting weird. In fact, I will try to go ahead and see if I can get weird by catching it this weekend. Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still a lot more to talk about on today's program. Wanted to go ahead and cover some of the new releases on Netflix. We'll cover the straight up one first, and that's Manifest, the canceled NBC show with the kind of, I guess, a very mysterious thing that's going on for these passengers that actually were on a flight that, I guess, for some reason or another, that's been, that's actually detailed in the show, got, a whole lot of mysterious stuff going on there, and a whole lot of things have happened to them since, because ever since they landed, their lives have been changed and altered dramatically ever since. And for 3 seasons, it had a pretty good run on NBC, but NBC let it go. And there was so much of a demand once it went on reruns on Netflix that Netflix ordered a fourth season because of the sheer demand. So it comes out this weekend with the fourth and final season of Manifest. Are you excited to go ahead and have your name on the Manifest?
I'm excited to have a show like this wrap up in a way that is hopefully going to be very different than the disastrous finale of Lost. I don't know why, but the two just feel like echoes of each other. I know Abrams has nothing to do with Manifest. I know, but
Mhm.
it's just one of
But
those
the
things where
parallels are very similar as far as from a supernatural standpoint.
right, and the plane and the passengers on a plane are involved in both shows. I don't know. Maybe I'm grasping at straws on that one, but no, I enjoyed what I've seen of Manifest. I'm not up to date on it. It's more homework that I have to do, but
If the answer is they're all dead, then I'm just out. Forget it.
yeah.
Forget it.
Right, right. And then,
Tried that once before, did not work.
yeah, and that's going to answer perhaps a bit of the question that we're going to talk about later because Hollywood is in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of things going on with Hollywood right now. A lot of entities right now are really in financial trouble. But what are your thoughts out there? You're going to catch Manifest on Netflix? Let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. But before we go ahead and talk about the entertainment industry in turmoil, wanted to go ahead and touch on the irony of a new show on Netflix entitled Blockbuster, based loosely off the final Blockbuster video store that's in Oregon. I know this is something that Netflix executives are very happy about. I know that the critics aren't liking it, but I think at this point it's kind of like an Ant-Man with Marvel, because Marvel, the first two Ant-Mans, they didn't do that great, but Marvel really loves the Ant-Man property and just really loves how vital it was to part of the MCU, and hopefully the third Ant-Man will be something that's really financially successful. But when it comes to Blockbuster, the fact that Netflix was such a small entity at the time in the early 2000s that they actually proposed to Blockbuster to buy them for, I think, like 20 to 25 million dollars. I don't remember the exact price off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but they actually asked them to buy them, and Blockbuster just laughed and just sent them away. And they never really got the concept of putting discs in envelopes and mailing them to people until it was too late. They tried their own hand at it, didn't kind of work, even though they had the advantages of thousands of brick and mortar stores at one time. And the irony of the fact that they actually closed down all but one store after having, again, thousands of stores. In fact, two of our cohorts in crime on the demolition force were both Blockbuster managers. I know that myself, that I was associated with a Hollywood video chain when I worked for Game Crazy and ran Game Crazy stores, so I know Hollywood video managers. I have two still that are friends of my life, but I know that Netflix has just basically enjoyed it, and are enjoying it now as we speak, the fact that Blockbuster exists in only a sitcom only format.
Yeah, I feel a number of different ways about this. And
Yeah.
um
The irony is there.
yeah, there's also a part of me just feels like a blockbuster show being on Netflix is in bad taste. there's a part of my brain that is thinking that.
Well, it's
However,
Netflix. It's Netflix just saying, it spoils. It's like they're rubbing it in their face. It's rubbing it in.
yes, right, and I just feel like it's not a thing that we need to do. It's so long ago now that Blockbuster is pretty much gone. But I also understand of the wanting to celebrate and really show how they defeated the giant of Blockbuster at that time. I'm conflicted about it.
Well,
Will
the
I
thing,
watch it?
yeah,
Probably, but I'm conflicted.
I'm going to give it a shot as well. I said that to the chat for the demolition force. I told them that they would. Actually, you had a great suggestion. Maybe we should bring both Adam and Roger on the air. So hopefully I can get them lined up for an interview so they can talk about some memories that they have and their, I guess, appreciation or lack thereof, if they have it or not, for the new series. So they're going to go ahead and hopefully check out the episodes of that and let us know. I am going to check it out and let everybody know my thoughts on it as well. But when it comes to Blockbuster, I would not have made it on a loosely off the Blockbuster, the final Blockbuster of the day. I would have I would have based it off of what was Blockbuster like back in the day, or
Yeah.
maybe some of the things that led them to this point there. I think that would have been more compelling. You could have even done it in a dark comedy type format, but I would
Hmm.
have done it from that vantage point to where these are the things that happen. This is the height of success of the Roman Empire, so to speak, when it concerns
Right.
Blockbuster, and then the fall of the Roman Empire from Blockbuster. I think that is more compelling to me than just, okay, these are the misadventures of having the final Blockbuster, and there you go. Because they've already done a documentary on the final Blockbuster in real life that actually I think you could have seen or could see on Netflix that is actually, from what I hear, really, really good. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty good. So I just think that for me, the Blockbuster series is, I don't want to say it's ill timed, but it's ill placed in where it should have covered. I hope somebody does do that, and not just in a documentary sake. I hope somebody actually covers that because I think it's a compelling story in and of itself, where you have a company, just like for instance, when I ran I was general manager for a Montgomery Ward. That was at the height of the success. That was Walmart before Walmart, and look at where they are, or they are now. They're basically a non-entity that my wife didn't even know still existed on this planet when they sent me a package the other day, so that they're still somewhat alive on online only, but they're not what they once were. Neither is Blockbuster. I would have loved a show or a series to touch on that, as far as the rise and then the fall of these large entities, these once large entities. I think that is much more compelling than doing a sitcom on the final store.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I,
I agree.
You agree, indeed. Yeah, I just think it's just so much more compelling. I just think
Yeah.
because everybody that's what 25 and older has some type of blockbuster story. I think especially when it concerns video games. Oh yeah, we used to go rent video games, and you always have those great memories, especially if you're 30s and 40s, of going to the Blockbuster and getting the games for the systems and whatnot. Some of the most valuable video games in the marketplace are Blockbuster exclusives. So those are some of the most valuable video games that you can get on auction right now are from Blockbuster. So yeah, just I think that the better story is not the one that they're telling right now on Netflix. I think this is just a self gratification and just a way for Netflix to say, you know what, ha 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 ha, we won, we won.
Yeah, there's just something about that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, I
Yes.
guess. But I have had um my first no, it wasn't my first. It was like my second or third full-time job in radio, and the general manager um always preached take the high road at every single opportunity that you can. And this just doesn't come across as taking the high
Oh
road. It
no,
feels
by
like a
no
cheap
stretch.
shot.
It
And
is.
I think that's maybe where I'm coming from, being conflicted about wanting to watch it.
Because everything's great for Netflix now. 220 million plus subscribers, even though they're still reporting losses like everyone else is from
Yeah.
other things. It's still 220 million subscribers. There's karma. So at some point in time, 10,
Yes.
15 years down the road, someone could be making a sitcom about them.
Yeah, absolutely. We may all be watching Paramount Plus by then.
Well, that's one of the entities right now that's struggling. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts out there on Blockbuster on Netflix? Do you like the irony and all that? Are you going to check it out? Randall Park's new sitcom. I love Randall Park as the actor. He's just a great actor, great comedian. I liked a lot of stuff he's doing, but this outing has not gotten great advanced reviews. But I am still going to check it out, and hopefully we can bring our friends on that play with us at the Demolition Force that were both Blockbuster store managers in Roger and Adam. Hopefully, we can go ahead and get them on the show to talk about their experiences. So please let us know your thoughts. Are you going to go ahead and check out Blockbuster on Netflix? Let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the break, I do want to go ahead and touch on some of those financial issues. As Paramount Plus reported some big losses. Warner Brothers Discovery also reported some big losses. Lionsgate over a billion, closer to $2 billion in losses. Warner Bros. Was over $2 billion as far as that's concerned. They've all talked about some major losses. The CW, the longtime CW CEO, has left. They put someone new in place, and there's major cuts coming to CEO. Right now, the entertainment industry is in turmoil. A lot of financials are not going the way that they want to. Obviously, the economy, world economy at this point in time, with inflation and some other things, not trying to get political or anything like that. I'm just trying to say that the current situation, as far as the economic wise, is not benefiting these streaming outlets at the present time. I'm not saying it's the doom or death knell by any stretch of the imagination, because there's too much good content on these streaming outlets for them not to be a part of our lives. In fact, it is preferential for me for streaming than on broadcast television, because I think it just blows away anything I see on broadcast television for the most part. But your thoughts on this, my friend, because again, the CW is the one I'm worried about the most, or think about the most, because they've got a new CEO in place. This individual has said about cost cutting is going to be a priority. Is this the beginning of the end of the CW?
You know what? I really hope not. I really what I loved about the CW is the same thing that I used to love about MTV. Sorry, Much Music if you were in Canada. And that is that it's a place for teens to go to watch the kind of shows that really appeal to them. So they're not going to be tucked in, or kind of sucked into um, oh no, I just had it in my head. Remember what was it they used to call Fridays on TV? Do you
With
remember?
Fridays
Yeah,
on
they used to have like a really snappy name, and it would be
oh,
like
MTV.
no, it wasn't even necessarily MTV. It was like, on NBC. It would be
Oh yeah,
like
NBC Friday Night Videos. I love that show. That was like late
yeah,
night Friday night. It was Friday Night Videos.
yeah, but there used to be like a block of programming, and they called it something.
Oh,
It,
okay.
do you remember? It was like Friday
Was
Funnies, and it was like four comedy shows right in a row.
well,
Do you
yeah,
remember?
and CBS, they all do that still. They all have a block of comedy hours or times that they go ahead and they devote. You're right. They usually give it some type of catchphrase.
Yeah, some kind of snappy thing.
I thought you were
Um,
going to go back to NBC and Friday Night Videos, because that was rocking back in the 80s. That show was awesome.
that was a time. But
Yes.
no, like I just feel
Or
like
as my
the
daughter
C,
says, back in my day.
yeah, right. But I just think that a lot of that really specific teen programming is going to get lost, and that really is a shame. That makes me very sad for teens that are coming up. Not that a lot of them are probably watching cable TV, but it was always nice for them to have a place to go and see their stories kind of reflected back at them, instead of watching a show and it's the teenager gets in trouble again.
Well, there's still a lot of, again, entertainment industry stalwarts that are suffering through a lot of financial issues.
Yeah.
Peacock, Universal, that's also one that's reported losses. I don't think anybody right now is going to be smelling, or at least none of these entities are going to be smelling like a rose. You can probably include Disney and again Netflix. They're all going to be suffering over the next period of time, just because the way the economy is. Of course, when the economy benefits, they benefit. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But I know a lot of them have started saying, okay, we're either going to increase our ads for ad supported tiers, or we're going to go ahead and decrease programming. I think the one thing, or at least cost cutting on the programming per se. I really think that we're going to get a decrease in the amount of content we're going to get to some of these streaming outlets, which is going to be a bummer. But hopefully, what it will do is will weed out the bad and give us more of the good that we need.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that as well. But also, we happen to tell a couple of really rad stories on Saturdays and Mondays. If somebody wants to take that and turn that into a script and develop into a show, well, I'm all for it. Just give
There you
me a
go.
call. I'll
Absolutely.
save it.
Same here as well. But it's just something that I think that we need to keep an eye on. And if you want to go ahead and check out what we do each and every time out at the Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos, you can check out the latest news and information where I post the financials, good and bad, on the entertainment industry, stalwarts such as Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery, the whole nine yards. I go ahead and make sure you are up to date on that, because this can affect you and your viewing going forward. Because the fact that they don't have enough money that they put into, or a lot of these projects you've enjoyed over the years may not be there in the future.
Was it Discovery that took a bunch of they did like a whole bunch of different channels? It would be like Discovery
Mm-hmm.
Civilization,
Mm-hmm.
Discovery. I loved that so much. I loved the Discovery Civilization channel. I would watch that for days on it. I
But the
loved it.
problem is all these experimental things that all these streaming outlets did.
Mhm.
A lot of the stuff at the like the what when the 2 years ago when it was the Wild West for streaming outlets. When they were
Yeah.
seeing a whole bunch of everything thrown out there. Quibi. When that was something that was tried, and that just crash landed almost within a year. It crash landed as well. I mean, that's something, again, you were seeing all that experimentational stuff, and there were some fringe channels which were also out at that time that you don't see right now, simply because the economy has changed.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, tightened belts are getting tightened, and unfortunately, because of that, a lot of things have to suffer. I still think you're going to find a lot of good programming on streaming. I still think you're going to find the best programming on streaming. I just think that right now you're going to see a lot of these players on the fringe on both broadcast, cable, and streaming outlets. You're going to see them in the next 2 to 3 years. They always said it was going to be a war for your dollar. Well, it's going to be a war for your dollar that's going to be ending up with a lot of casualties in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and that truly is unfortunate. You don't like to hear of any industry having any kind of struggle. So, um, hopefully, well, not hopefully, we'll all get through it. There's no question about that. And it's just going to be a matter of, tightening up the belt, as you said, and making sure that they're pushing out the best of the best of the best of their content consistently.
What are your thoughts out there on the current status, or the status, as they say, of the entertainment industry? A lot of entertainment industry leaders are not exactly doing as well as they would like, with a lot of them reporting heavy hits, major losses, major cuts on the way for a lot of these entities. So, are you concerned that your favorite television station, television channel, or television show or movie is going to get canceled in some time in the near future? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, we're almost on out of here, my friend. Another great hour is coming up here in the books. But before we head on out, Jennifer Lawrence is back in the spotlight. I know that Don't Look Up was her basic return to entertainment. I know she took time off to start building a family. I know this week she said that she totally regrets Passengers. Although that made $400 million. I understand it was critically blasted, but I didn't think the movie was that bad, and made $400 million for Sony. And it's not every day you have a movie that makes $400 million, but I guess that's an issue in and of itself. She didn't like it. I know she dropped out of another project as far as playing Elizabeth Olsen this week because it was done so well recently by another actress, so she dropped out of that. But she is showing up in Causeway, which is a movie on Apple TV Plus that actually debuts this weekend in regards to a individual who's suffered a traumatic brain injury while deployed overseas as a soldier, and is struggling to, I guess, come to grips with what's going on in that individual's world when they come back to life in the States. Your thoughts on Jennifer Lawrence? I really think that she was at one time one of the biggest actresses in the world. She's an outstanding actress, can really act when given the opportunity. I really think that there's a future for her to be back on top, but it's going to be something as far as getting the right project. Because with all these actors and actresses, it's about getting that right project to go ahead and put them back on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And, since she became a mom, it'll be interesting to see, who Jennifer
Balance.
Lawrence, yeah, and who Jennifer Lawrence, the actress, is going to evolve into, and, the kind of actress that she will be. Because, that big of a life change is going to affect all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for her. I've always enjoyed Jennifer Lawrence, even her silly shenanigans, preacher, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. I just always have found her to be incredibly charismatic, and I'm interested to see where she's going to go from here.
Yeah, I mean, she's done some great things. Of course, the Hunger Games, Silver Linings Playbook. Obviously, some great stuff there. American Hustle. She was obviously very good in that as well. But then there's some, like every actor and actress, major. You've had your good and your bad. Red Sparrow, the most recent X-Men movie. I mean, those were not exactly the best choices in the world because of the fact that those movies really stunk it up. Unfortunately, I just had to sit through them. They weren't exactly very good to watch, but she is still a tremendous actress. I think given the right opportunity, right script, and maybe this is it with Causeway. I heard the reviews are okay so far, so hoping I can get a chance to see it. But what are your thoughts out there on Causeway on Apple TV Plus? You willing to check it out? Are you excited to check out Jennifer Lawrence's latest project in Causeway? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, a couple last things to talk about before we head on out, but Miss PlayStation, I have to go ahead and talk to you
Mhm.
about more PlayStation. You heard the good news earlier about Call of Duty staying on the PlayStation, although you said it's going to come with caveats, and I'm not going to say I disagree with you on that. And if you are right, you are certainly going to be called Miss Clairvoyant from here on out.
Yeah.
But I will say, when it comes to PlayStation, they announced finally a date and a price for the PlayStation VR 2. So the PSVR 2 is finally got a release date. It's been long rumored on when it's going to come out. It's going to come out in February 22nd of next year. The price, at least the entry level price, if you want a game with it, or like the Horizon Call of the Mountain game, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. But the entry level is $549.99.
Yeah, and doesn't include games.
No, I'm sure it does something, like little basic stuff as far as, they throw in with the PlayStation 5, they throw a little sampler at you, or some little, like, what are their robot mascot game or something like that, something to test out the VR. But yeah, if you want the new Horizon game that's going to come out at that point in time, that's going to come out at $50 extra.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the other titles that they're planning on
I
having
think
things ready to
11,
go.
yeah, I think 11 or 12 is going to be at the time of launch, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
yeah, nothing super outstanding. That's showcasing the as far as such a great value for it. But your thoughts? I want to hear this. I think 549. I'm not exactly a big VR fan, and I've said this on the show, and I've talked to Douglas Hoyabu at Retrosted Games, who has PSVR. Talked to other individuals that have had VR over the years that absolutely love the experience. I have not loved the experience. Not that I get motion sickness or anything. I just didn't think it was worth it to go ahead and invest that kind of money in it, because I saw Microsoft's Illuma Room at CES several years ago, and that just,
Right.
yeah, gave me an experience like, that's the experience I want. That's the experience we don't have. That's the experience we'll probably won't get until 10, 20 years down the road. So I will wait for that. But with PSVR, if you want to go ahead, it's less apparatus, but there's still apparatus. You still got to go ahead and use. Of course, you got to use the headset and all that. I'm just not into it, especially paying even more in the United States for it than a PlayStation 5, although it will be the same price in some areas of the world, because some areas of the world, PlayStation 5 was, the price was hiked up. I just don't think, or I don't see a situation where I need it or I'm going to be buying it anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, at least for now, because right now, I'm in a pretty unique situation where if I need entertainment, I'm in a position where I get to create it myself and share that with my friends, and that becomes our tabletop virtual reality, if you want to
Or
put it that
throwing
way.
jokes at Robbie. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. So
that
I just
provides you hours of entertainment right there.
it truly does. But it just takes my need for virtual reality and kind of like stuffs it down the priority list quite far. I do think though that virtual reality is going to become incredibly commonplace, and I do think that if we don't start jumping on some sort or some form of virtual reality, we're going to be the old fuddy duddies now who, what does .com do? On the computer. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm trying to get at though, right? Like, I think that it is the technology that is going to be the thing that becomes super commonplace as we continue to get older. And I think the sooner that we can pick up some of this technology and learn the ins and outs about it, the better off we're going to be.
I still think though that the barrier of entry is still high, whether it's price, because
Oh gosh, yeah.
Meta didn't do themselves any favor by increasing the price by about $100, I think, or more
Hmm.
on their Meta Quest 2. They didn't do themselves any favors by increasing the price on that. And so the barrier of entry, plus also the equipment that's needed in order to go ahead and play the VR, is still unattractive to me. I mean, the same things that you were saying were also said to me in the late 80s and early 90s when Virtual Boy came out. And everybody said, oh, this is the future of where it's going to go. This is where the entertainment's going to go. The future of this. VR has been around for a long time,
Hmm.
and it's never caught on to any extent the way that the makers have intended. So I think it's still going to take something more. It's still a niche industry right now. It's still a niche genre. It's still a niche part of the population. I mean, there are individuals that swear by it and will spend anything to go ahead and buy all the games for it. And then there's people like us that might see it as a casual thing. But I think that just once you get to what I saw at the one time years ago with CES, where you can interact with things and not have to wear any apparatus, I think that's still going to be a barrier of entry for a lot of people going forward.
Yeah, and I think too. I mean, those head visors and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, that technology is going to continue to develop, and I think eventually it's just going to become a pair of glasses or
Yeah.
some lenses that you fit over the glasses that you're
That's
wearing.
easier. That's more
Yeah,
attractive. Yes. I love
yeah.
your joke though. .com or .com?
I know. I'm sorry.
What does this dot? You're like my mom. Yes. My mom is 88 years old and it's just what does this thing do? Mom, you hit that's reason why you're not answering my phone calls is because you turned the ringer off. Oh, so you have
Thanks.
to go ahead. Yeah, or I went over to the house and for the 500th time and changed the input back to the input so actually she could watch TV. So
Oh, bless
yes,
her heart.
yes, bless her heart indeed. So yes, sad that that those days might be approaching us as well. But I will say before they do, hopefully that VR can become an easier barrier of entry, not just price wise, but technology wise to a larger audience. I think that in its current state, it will never reach the intended audience it needs to get because it's just not deemed as need. Not it's just a want, or it's just
Yeah.
as you don't. It's okay. I like to get it, or I think kind of cool. It's not like a PlayStation 5 where you had to get a PlayStation 5, or when the Xbox Series X came out. Oh, this is cutting edge. You have to go ahead and get it. Whereas PSVR 2 and MetaQuest 2 are like, okay, all right, maybe someday.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you down this road as well, Gerald.
All right. But what are your thoughts out there on the PSVR 2's expected release date in February 22nd, 2023? That's as of now. I should always put caveat subject to change without
Mm.
notice, seemingly. And also as well the price of $549. Is that too expensive for you to get into the PSVR 2? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, it's been a great episode, but before we head on out, I'm going to tell you about an impending tragedy that's coming November 20th to many McDonald's stores across the country. And that is the last day, supposedly, according to the ad campaign, that you'll be able to have a McRib because the McRib is supposedly on its final showcase this time around because they recently debuted it again, as they do every time around this year, and comes out for a few weeks and everybody seems to enjoy it and then it goes away. Well, they said that this time is the final time as far as their advertising campaign. But I did a little research and noticed that earlier this century that they've not only done it once but twice. And actually they've done it actually even earlier than that, and saying this is the final time that you can get the McRib. Your thoughts on the McRib? I absolutely love it. I've actually had one on the air with Josh previously, so everybody has seen barbecue sauce dripping from my mouth and dripping on the sides of my cheek, and actually doing an episode with me just smeared across my face. Your thoughts on the McRib, and could this be the final time for the McRib at McDonald's
I mean,
after
it's
on our way out?
anything is possible. Also, social media campaigns have a pretty good way of changing corporations' minds
Oh, they'll
sometimes.
bring it back. They'll bring it back.
Yeah,
I
there'll be something about that. But on a personal level, I have never experienced the McRib. I know,
know.
I know. I understand if we can't be friends anymore. But I just like the Big Mac or some nugs. That's all I need. Yeah,
All right. Well, Big Mac for me, no cheese. But I will say, when it comes to the McRib, I will have one for you this weekend, just
fair
for you.
enough.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts out there on the McRib? Is this, in your belief, the final year, as what they're saying from McDonald's on the McRib? I don't think so. If pork prices go cheap once again, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing a reinvigorated version of the McRib. Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Looks like your dog wants a McRib. See, you mentioned McRibs.
Yeah, he definitely does. And
Yeah.
he's probably going to take the laptop down here in a second.
Uh oh,
Oh,
watch
no,
out.
he's on his way. He's on his way. He's going somewhere else. He
Okay,
just
fair
wanted to
enough.
check in.
But before we, Melinda, it's been a great episode. You've kicked butt as always. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Oh my goodness. Last thoughts, last thoughts, last thoughts, last
McRib?
thoughts. McRib, yeah. Also, coming up next week, you're going to get the podcast form of last Mondays, so this past Monday's Wild Beyond the Witchlight, because it was Halloween, so we did a Halloween special instead. And well, you get a chance to experience me expressing myself musically, um, and to varying degrees of success, and a lot of shocked sounds from my players around the table. But it was a lot of fun to record. Weekend at Strahd's, if anybody is familiar with it, it's a really fun game, but it relies on a lot of music, and you can't play music in podcasts because of copyrights. So I did my own little rendition of some of the songs that you needed in it, and
As long as it didn't end up to be Weekend at Bernie's.
well, that's what it's a parody of.
Okay.
So there's so many like 80s references and 80s
Well, as long
music.
as your audience didn't turn into Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, no, I don't think that they did, but there were some pretty good laughs around the table, and that one is always a lot of fun when I get a chance to run it. I always will. I think I'll keep it in my back pocket for a very long time in my DM tool belt. But it was a lot of fun, and we just found out that our mini campaign for Vampires and Vitae is going to be extended by another 8 weeks. Tyler is coming back. So we can get back to the main campaign. But in order for that to happen with the new job, we've got to go ahead and, he's got to kind of earn that from his boss. So we're looking at another 8 weeks before he'll be back with us on Sundays. So the mini campaign will march on.
There you go, indeed. But go ahead and check out what she's doing today at Vampires and Vitae, plus also Wizards of Wine with Wild Beyond the Witchlight on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, who'll be convincing so much her husband on what she would like to get this Christmas. Yes, you know you will. Yes. Yes. Good luck, Robbie. You'll need it. This is Gerald.
Sorry, he's in big trouble.
Oh, watch out. Watch out. This is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself Agree.